celebrating our connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio. Here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
Hello, my friend. Dog trainer Alan Cable, dog father Joey Villani, Dr. Debbie, and animal communicator Joy Turner, all here. This hour on Animal Radio, we'll be talking to the Cat Whisperer Mieshelle Nagelschneider. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
That's a heck of a name.
It is a heck of a name. She'll be telling us how to whisper to our cats.
Is it cheaper to fly to Chicago or by Nagelschnitzer?
Not Nagelschnitzer, it's Nagelschneider. You can go through Nagelschneider.
Well, that's close to Giggle Snort, isn't it?
Down the street. Stacy off in her own world in her little secluded news booth. What's up?
Remember the Fiddler on the Roof where they did that song, "A Blessing on Your Head, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov"?
Oh, yeah.
I know. I sound like I could definitely do Broadway, but the Pontiff, what's his name? Pope Francis. He did a blessing, too. He didn't sing that song, but it just reminded me of it. Anyway, he did a special blessing that was out of character for him. He called a dog up to get blessed. I'll tell you about it coming up on Animal Radio News.
And we head to Grant. Hey, Grant, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm okay. I'm sorry it's noisy in here, but I've got to be somewhere. I'm at work.
It's noisy in here, too. We got a bagel stuck in the air conditioner. So, what's going on with you?
A bagel? What is a bagel? Is that the same as an unsugared donut?
Yeah, exactly, like an unsugared donut, but we don't know how it got up there. Actually, we do, but that's another story.
Yeah,
Let's deal with your issue.
They wanted the donut instead, so they got mad and threw it.
Yeah, I would, too. Okay. Hey, I've got a 7.5-year-old pit shepherd mix, and he's around 100 pounds. And when he was 2, he had an adnexal hemargoma in his lower right leg, below the elbow. It took 2 surgeries to remove it. And then a lipoma appeared at some point after that, and it's really ballooned into a massive area in his shoulder right above where that was. And it's mixed in with the shoulder muscle and the tricep muscle, and he's had surgery 3 different times over it.
Okay.
And now I'm told that there's nothing else that we can do. We're doing quality of life, and I don't take that answer very well. Is there anything else that can be done? You know, they don't even want to take the leg off because they're not sure that it would solve the problem. If it was a human being would not be walking around with a Nerf football stuck in their shoulder.
No, absolutely
what do you do about that?
Well, I mean, the first question I have for you is I want to make sure, did this tumor at some point get biopsied and sent out? Or a piece of it get sent out? It did, okay. So,
and it's been aspirated about once a year ever since it first appeared.
Okay, because the first thing when I hear about definitely fatty tumors or lipomas, they definitely have a high reoccurrence rate because they're fat cells, and it's impossible to remove all the fat cells. But if I do hear that a lipoma grows back very fast, there is a possibility of a lipoma making a malignant change to a liposarcoma. It's not terribly common, but we do know that less than 1% of these type of tumors can be malignant. So if it's been a long time since that's been revisited, getting a piece of it would certainly be a wise thing to make sure. Now, with all that being said, you've had several procedures done. With some of these fatty tumors, they can be just immense, and if they're in between the planes of tissues, like between the different muscle layers, it is hard to remove that because we know there's going to be microscopic fat cells still in the area that will potentially grow again. So, there may be some steps that can be done. You're kind of getting into more of the theme of things where we'd be looking at radiation therapy. So that may be a possibility. That may be limited by your location and the availability of that kind of, technology in the area, but it is a valid thing with all sorts of different types of cancers in dogs. And especially when we're looking at something that is maybe not so easily resectable, that may be an avenue to look at with that.
That's never even been discussed with me by the 3 different vets that have looked at it. They're just like, well, there's nothing else that can be done. And one was a board-certified surgeon that it cost me 3 house payments to be unsuccessful in the last surgery a year ago this month. And of course, that was biopsied and stuff, too. And I'm just at my wit's end because he's a really good dog. He's active. He swims in our swimming pool. He runs by himself on a treadmill. But now he's got a limp. and I'm just beside myself. And I don't accept there's nothing that can be done very well. I'm not very good at that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I like the idea that, you did call in a surgeon, a specialist for that, because, that sometimes even us regular veterinarians out in practice, we'll admit when sometimes, normal traditional surgery doesn't work. We're going to call upon those specialists to do their best to control the disease with aggressive surgery. And if that didn't happen, it sounds like your vets have done a lot already to guide you in the right direction. So the next step would really be consulting with a board certified veterinary oncologist. And that's something that you can certainly kind of Google that to see what area you're in. A lot of times if you're near in a state where there's a vet school, you're going to find oodles of specialists there, and they'll definitely have their handful of veterinary oncologists. But most metropolitan areas do have those. And here in the Las Vegas area, we have at least 2 to 3 at any time. So that might be an avenue to set up that consult, see if something like radiation therapy is a possibility or not.
Okay.
And then, they might even have some newer things that are out there, sometimes on the cusp of research. Those are the folks that you want to talk to.
We have a teaching hospital, through Oklahoma State. I live in Tulsa, and they're running our animal shelter in our city. They're practicing their spays and neuters and all that kind of stuff on our animal shelter, trying to get down the euthanization rate. They'd cut that in half, 15,000 to 7,000 a year. And maybe that's something that I could do. Maybe I could call Oklahoma State and ask them, hey, what is there anything that could be done? Can y'all help me? And see, that hasn't never been even discussed with me. I've just been told we've done all we can do. We're sorry.
Yeah. Well, I wish I had more clients like you, because I have people come in with tumors the size of basketballs coming off a dog's sides, and they're like, can you cut it off? And, sometimes even surgery can't remove all of these things. If it's a lipoma, that's good, because, those kind of tumors, we're not necessarily worried that they're going to spread to distant parts of the body. So that certainly is in your favor there. So.
Well, I'm going to do that. I really appreciate your time. And I've spent a fortune on him. I'm just a working guy. I think you can hear my truck running down the road. And I've spent $4,000 on him.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot of money for somebody like me. And I don't finance anything. I don't even finance a roof on my house, I try to save the money and do what I can do when I can do it. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, you've done a fabulous job with him, and I definitely embrace your passion, because I'm that same kind of person. And if I didn't have opportunities for my dog's cancer here or in my environment, I was prepared to drive out of state. Sometimes you have to take it to that next step and travel. So definitely, I'd encourage you to give them a call at that vet hospital.
Well, and I have the ability to do that on my job. I can take him with me.
Good.
I could take him with me and drop him off somewhere and even come back to get him.
Yeah.
Because we go to the same places all the time, if that makes sense. I'm going to explore that. I really appreciate your time.
Okay. Well, great. Well, good luck with that. Let me know if anything works out in that avenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for your call there, Grant. We appreciate it.
Dogs or cats, horse or emu, animals are people too. A California woman who allegedly instructed her 2 daughters to steal a neighbor's dog was arrested on charges of contributing to the delinquency of a minor and grand theft. A witness to the dog napping told police he saw 2 young girls jump out of an SUV and snatch the small dog, while a woman inside the car was shouting at them to hurry up. A week later, the girls aged 7 and 9 were observed reacting strangely to a sign the dog owners posted offering a reward. They were sent to the principal's office, where they confessed the stealing Guppy, a small Chihuahua Pekingese mix. Their mother, who was released on $20,000 bail, told police she took the dog to protect it from another dog in the neighborhood. I'm Britt Savage for Animal Radio. Animals are people too. Animal Radio.
If you missed any part of today's show, visit us at animalradio.com or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
It's made possible by Fear-Free Happy Homes, helping your pets live their happiest, healthiest, fullest lives at home, at the vet, and everywhere in between. Visit them at fearfreehappyhomes.com.
Hi, it's Alan Cable with today's dog tip. Last time we talked about picking a smart puppy out by using his attention span. That is, how long can he focus on one thing before becoming distracted? The longer, the better. If you've got your eye on a particular dog or puppy, here's a couple of other tests you can do that go a little bit further than just measuring how long a dog can focus. Usually a puppy under 4 months that can focus on any one thing for longer than 10-15 seconds is pretty smart. Now that you've established that the dog you're interested in can do that, here's a couple of other little tests. Have somebody hold him on a leash, and right in front of his face, take a dog treat and put it under a coffee can or a soup can. A smart dog will know right away that the treat is still there even though he can't see it. Knock the can over with his nose or paw and go at it. Just so you know, we put my uncle through this test. He ate the can. If the dog you want completes the coffee can test successfully, here's another one you can do to take it a step further. Now with your friend holding the dog on a leash, take the treat, show it to the dog, then put your hands behind your back and make 2 fists so that the treat is now concealed. Now put the 2 fists back in front and let the puppy or dog pick which hand your treat is in. Now, the last part of this test is what separates Beethoven from the idiots that are always trying to catch him in the movie. And I'll just tell you, most likely, if the dog is younger than 4 months, he or she probably won't be able to complete this part of the test. Well, what the heck, give it a whirl anyway. Same thing, hands behind your back, but drop the treat behind you. Then bring both of your closed hands in front of you again. Most likely, the dog's going to sniff both of your hands. Then you can open both of them up to reveal the treat is gone. Where'd it go? A real smart dog is going to put it together, or he's going to use his nose to search for the treat. And an extremely intelligent dog is going to want to walk behind you to get the treat that he knows is there. This is Abstract Thought for a Dog and the cast of Jersey Shore. Next time, we'll talk about what a dog needs to be well-adjusted, happy, and secure. And believe it or not, love isn't number one.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-434-5019. 800-434-5019. 800-434-5019. That's 800-434-5019.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Do you want a sip of water there?
Thank you.
What was that?
I got the hiccups.
You're right there, pal.
I'm sorry.
All right. Give you a good shot on the back or something.
Yeah, if you could do that. Jeez, man, almost out of the room.
What's that flew out there?
I don't know. I think it was my dentures.
It was a feather.
Let's go to the phones. We have Wendy on the phones for Alan Cable.
Hello.
Hey,
I'm
Wendy.
glad it was the hiccups and not my phone.
Yeah. What's going on in your world?
Well, I have this adorable, sweet, lovely 1.5-year-old golden doodle. He's neutered. And lately, when I take him to the dog park, if he finds a ball, he'll get very possessive of it with the other dogs.
It's not his ball. It's another dog's ball.
It's one he finds, and he has plenty of toys at home, and he doesn't do that when other dogs come to my house.
That's another kind of aggression called possessive aggression. It's when a dog, in the old days when dogs were first becoming dogs, they would compete for everything. They'd compete for their food, and they'd compete for their sleeping place, their mates. They'd compete. Today, dogs often guard their food. Some of them guard where they sleep. Some of them guard their crates. Some of them guard even the beds that their owners sleep in. So when your dog's taking a toy away from another dog and acting aggressive towards that dog, he's taking possession of that toy. And so you probably don't like that. You want him to stop, right?
Yeah, because I'm afraid he's going to act aggressive toward, like, a pit bull or something down there,
Yeah, take his toy away.
And I don't know how to stop him or what to train him or...
Well, the simplest thing you can do is keep your dog on a leash at the dog park, okay? And does your dog know the command no bite or give? Have you taught your dog to let go of things?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I say let go.
All right, so what you can do is you can bring your dog to the dog park on a leash, and you can actually elicit the help of another dog owner and take that toy and actually give it to your dog. Give the other dog's toy to your dog, and then give your dog the command no bite. And I believe when you do training, when you do behavior modification with dogs, it's real important to reward them for the behavior that they're doing that you want, and not reward them for negative behavior. When they're not doing what you want, you just pay no attention to them, or you actually, you give them a quick correction, like no. like that. So when the dog lets the toy go, you actually give the dog some praise and turn around and walk the opposite direction very fast away from the toy. And keep practicing that. The next step is to let the other dog walk over and pick up his toy while you've got your dog on the leash. And when he acts calm, when he's acting calm, if he acts kooky, you turn and walk the other direction quickly, giving him a correction. Because as soon as the leash gets taut, he's going to get a major correction in his neck. And that's going to teach him that not only are you in charge, he has to be close to you, pay attention to you, and it's going to get his mind off being possessive of that toy very quickly. And as soon as he starts to calmly behave when other dogs come around and take their toys back or pick up toys, you give him praise, and then you let him off the leash. As soon as he's calm and not possessive, that's when you let him off the leash. Up until that point, you've got to keep him on a leash at the dog park so that you can make those corrections when he acts aggressive and other dogs' toys are around.
Yeah, because this is very strange behavior, because when I've socialized him from the day I got him as a puppy, and he used to like to go to the dog park and play with other dogs, but lately all he does is look for lost balls and want to play with me. And then when he's too tired of playing and doesn't want to be around other dogs, he'll take that ball and go off somewhere and guard it.
Has anything happened? Anything? Has he been attacked by another dog or frightened by another dog?
When he was growing up, because he was smaller, the other dogs, would do what they do. And I would watch very carefully. And he finally, one day, these 3 dogs went at him at once, and he laid them all out one by one, faster than I've seen a pit bull move.
That's pretty cool.
Since then, he hasn't had to protect himself, and he hasn't done that.
Well, it's interesting what you say. He hasn't had to protect himself because you, as the pack leader, you're almost charged with protecting him. So if you're going to let your dog off a leash around other dogs, you have to be prepared to step in. And it's very, very careful. You have to be very careful when you do this because you don't want to get bitten. But you have to learn to step in and show your dog that, yeah, you're the pack leader. You're going to protect him. Because what that does makes him anxious. When he knows he has to protect you and himself, makes him very anxious. I have another neighbor. I was telling a neighbor story before, and he was watching 3 dogs here in the neighborhood. And the dogs were literally having their way with him. They were jumping all over him. And so he called me up on the phone, and I went over there. And basically every time they tried to jump on him, I just took the space away, just walked forcefully right into the dog and said, no, down. It's kind of like you have to be in charge. You have to walk in front of your dog. Don't let your dog walk in front of you on a leash, at your side or behind you. Don't let your dog enter the house before you. And when you bring your dog around other dogs, watch the body language of the other dogs. If you see any sign of aggression, put yourself between your dog and those dogs. Not when they're biting and attacking, but take the space away from the other dog. Take that space. Be the pack leader.
So he thinks that he's protecting me instead of the other way around. Okay.
He is your pack leader. He's in charge. And because dogs are not meant to be the pack leader, it makes them anxious. It makes them fearful.
Understand.
You have to be the pack leader.
Okay, well, I will go home and take care of that. And thank you for having such a wonderful show. I can call.
Thanks, Wendy. We appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Isn't it great that we have a show that we can call?
No, wait a minute. Now, what happens when somebody's breaking into my house and I want the dog to not look at me and say, what are you going to do?
That's Joey. That's an interesting preponderance. And I will tell you right now that even if you had like 4 dogs and 2 adults, the lowest dog on the totem pole in the pack order will step up and defend the pack when necessary.
It's just like here at the studio.
Gotcha. Yes. If somebody breaks in, we'll use Hal as a shield.
We're in rare form today. This hour, the Cat Whisperer. I was unaware there was a cat. Alan, did you know there was a Cat Whisperer?
No, but I knew there were Gator Boys. Have you seen the Gator Boys? I love the Gator Boys.
I don't know the Gator Boys.
They're 2 insane guys who have a very short lifespan who go out and capture alligators.
This is
Animal Radio.
Do your dogs go nuts when they hear fireworks or during a bad thunderstorm? It's not their fault. They have sensitive ears. You love your dog, and so do we. That's why we developed a perfect solution for your loved pets by eliminating the harmful noise. It's called Doggy Hush, a unique waterproof set of headphones that go over your dog's ears. They're so comfortable, your dog won't even know they're wearing them. And when this happens, your dog will feel and stay safe and stress-free. Go to doggyhush.com. Enter the promo code we're about to give you for a free special gift. Again, buy Doggy Hush for your dog today and protect your dog's ears from fireworks, thunderstorms, and a lot more harmful noises. Go to doggyhush.com and enter this promo code, Radio4. Radio and the number 4. Go to doggyhush.com right now and enter the promo code Radio4. Again, that's promo code Radio4.
This is an Animal Radio News Update.
I'm Stacy Cohen for Animal Radio. Well, spring may inspire you to welcome baby chicks into your flock, but you know what? You should probably nix that idea if you're not prepared to care for them long after spring is over. You have to understand these animals do live longer than a couple of years, said Lacey Campbell. She's the operations manager at the Audubon Society of Portland's Wildlife Care Center. She said you really have to plan accordingly because chicks are live animals, they're not disposable toys, and they require very specialized care. I know, it's the season, it's spring, Easter type of environment, and everybody thinks, oh, they're so cute, but chicks are pretty social, so you have to get at least 2 or 3 of them, not just one. And if they're by themselves, they can be very lonely and noisy, and they can die of loneliness or stress if they don't have another chick with them. And you also have to keep them in a brooder, which will stimulate the warmth and protection of a mother, so you have to buy one of those. And at night, you have to have a secure coop for them because predators, especially if you're in the city, the raccoon, poultry's number one enemy. They can smell chicken from a mile away and not the fried kind. So you have to be careful. Also, chickens carry salmonella for kids, and if you don't wash your hands, it could be a big pain in the neck. You get diarrhea and all that, start puking. Overall, owning chickens could be a rewarding experience like all the fresh eggs you'll get, but only if you're really responsible about it, so you might want to think twice. A yellow Labrador, I don't know if you heard about this. When the Pope was doing his blessings, Pope Francis, he blessed a Labrador Retriever before he blessed anything else. I guess he called him on stage. There were some journalists that were sitting down, and this one journalist had his dog with him. So he called him up on stage, and the Pope got his little white dress sniffed and his black shoes. And then the pontiff did a blessing for the dog. The guy who owned him also asked that his wife get blessed. Threw in his wife there too. But it was an unusual experience because it wasn't something that was prearranged. There's some bills that are being shopped in 6 states by the American Legislative Exchange Council that would make it a crime to film animal abuse at factory farms or lie on job applications in hopes of shutting down animal rights activists who infiltrate slaughterhouses to expose those horrible conditions. The meat industry's response to these exposes has not been to try to prevent these abuses from taking place, but rather it's really been to prevent Americans from finding out about those abuses in the first place, according to Paul Shapiro. He's a spokesman for the Humane Society of the U.S. And what they're doing is trying to pass laws throughout the county that don't just shoot the messenger, they seek to imprison the messenger. I'm Stacy Cohen. Get more animal breaking news at animalradio.com.
This has been an Animal Radio News Update. Get more at animalradio.com.
Hey, this is Brian DeTillo. I play Lucas Roberts on Days of Our Lives, and you're listening to Animal Radio. And please don't forget to have your pet spayed or neutered. That's my favorite saying from Bob Barker, by the way.
Oh, what did he say? He said, we're all across the USA, the most listened to pet show today. Animal Radio, we're everywhere you go. Animal Radio. Animal Radio.
It's Animal Radio, celebrating the connection with our pets. And yes, all week long, we've been playing with the dog hotline.
It's so much fun. It's actually like you're having a real conversation with your dog.
It's like a medium. It's like a hotline connection directly to your dog. And let me tell you a little bit about it. It's designed by a company called Regal.ai. They make AI agents. It's actually responding in real time to what you say. And they have this dog hotline that you can talk to your dog. And you have Dolly the dachshund, and I believe that's who we're going to talk to today.
Yes, I have some questions about good old little Dolly.
This is how easy it is. We're heading over right now to regal.ai/dog. And you're scrolling down. Dolly's a dachshund, so you're scrolling down to a dachshund. And by the way, they have 15 breeds.
And then they have a phone number for each breed, so you can get direct hotline to your dog.
Let's dial it up and talk to Dolly.
I'm ready.
I'm so excited to be speaking human. I can't believe it. I took a nap and then woke up, and now all of a sudden I'm speaking to you. It's so crazy. Anyway, can you tell me what my name is?
Your name is Dolly.
Dolly. A name as brilliant as my inventions. It is perfect. Speaking of perfect things, tell me, what is something you have always wanted to ask me now that I can talk?
Well, every time I take you to the beach, you're just a little dachshund. You got these short little legs, but you're always trying to hump the big dogs. Why?
I suppose I'm just conducting an experiment on the art of diplomacy among canines. Everyone must know the genius of Dolly after all. But tell me, speaking of discoveries, do we have a snack plan for later?
What I'm going to do is when we get home from the beach, I'm going to give you your favorite, your peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Peanut butter and jelly. A true culinary masterpiece. I can already taste the brilliance. After our beach adventure, will we also engage in a cozy blanket session to digest this gourmet delight and explore the mysteries of napping together?
Only if you promise to leave the cats alone because they want to nap too.
A compromise. I shall exercise my utmost restraint while the feline wonders enjoy their snooze. But do you believe there's room for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in this equation? I feel it will amplify our napping experience tremendously.
Yes, there will be a big peanut butter and jelly sandwich with lots of jelly, just the way you like it.
I can hardly wait to dive into that jellylicious delight. I've been chatting too much again. Call me back anytime and share more about our adventures. Can't wait to chat again soon.
I always thought Dolly had that kind of accent.
Now we know the truth.
Hey, if you want to try this with your dog, head on over to regal.ai/dog and check out what AI can do. It's pretty amazing. Regal.ai can also help you with your business. You can check them out at regal.ai. But talk to the dog. Regal.ai/dog. It's free and a lot of fun. And we didn't get a lot of work done this week.
We talked to a lot of dogs.
And they have a lot to say. I know I said it too fast. I'll say it one more time. Regal.ai/dog. Or let us know what your dog says.
Hi, Teresa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Where are you today?
I'm in Virginia.
Ooh, that's a beautiful state. It's for lovers. Did you know that?
I heard that.
Dr. Debbie's right here. How can we help you?
I have 2 German Shepherds and a mixed dog, and a neighbor of mine raises cattle, and I buy grass-fed beef from her, and she gave me some uncooked bones for them that have the marrow in them, and I was wondering if it's okay to give it to them.
Okay. My opinion, I do not like to feed bones to dogs, and I'm going to have probably a million people calling up and saying, Doc Debbie, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been feeding my dog bones their whole life, and they're great. The big problem I have with bones isn't so much, whether it's cooked or uncooked. It's just the fact that bones are very strong, and dogs' enamel of their teeth, it does not compete when it comes to bones. So we'll often get a lot of cracked teeth, which can lead to open teeth and root canals and things like that. So I'm really not a fan of just giving them the cow bones themselves. The other risks we run into also, would be foodborne illness, getting bacterial infections and so forth, as well as the good old bone piece that gets stuck in the throat or in the gut or where have you, and causes, emergency surgery and so forth. So I personally am not a fan of that. There are people that believe in the raw diets, and that is part of the cornerstone of that. I just don't fall in that nutritionally, and professionally I can tell you I've seen many pets suffer, not all survive, coming up face to face with bones. So my best advice is stay away.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was a pretty simple answer. There you go, Teresa. Thanks for your call at 1-866-405-8405. What about that compressed rawhide stuff? Is that okay for them?
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of that. And anything we give our dogs to chew, the important thing is supervision is always, always, always important. But the compressed rawhide, and if anyone doesn't know what that is, that's that nice big pieces of rawhide that they compress with high pressure so that you don't have those little slipped edges or the soft parts, and it holds up really well, especially to the large dogs. So for my Labradors, the compressed rawhides last many hours versus 15 minutes with the other stuff.
What do you recommend for dogs that just like to chew on something?
That like to chew. It depends on their jaw strength and what breeds. Now, some smaller breeds can do very well with some of the rope bone type toys. That gives them something to chew on. They have a lot of fun with that. Now, when you get to a larger, more destructive dog, they can ingest that. So you have to watch their toys a little more. So for large breeds, I'll tend to look at things that are nice, heavy-duty, rubber style, not any of that soft vinyl stuff. And the Kong toys, a lot of the heavier Buddha bones are very good. And then the compressed rawhide is probably one of the more edible things that I like to go to.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Hi, this is Carrie Annie Naba from Dance with the Stars. Don't forget to spay and neuter your animals, and you're listening to Animal Radio.
Thousands of authors across the country have written books and published them with Page Publishing. If you've written a book, they can help you through the process, cut through the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you. If they decide to publish your book, your work ends, theirs begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art. Plus, get your book printed, distributed, and sold on Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, and in bookstores across the country. They even help promote your book. Biography, self-help, mystery, novels, sci-fi, or even a children's book. No matter what genre, Page Publishing can bring your book to life. And don't forget to ask about audiobooks. We do all of this for you. Call today for your free writer's guide packed with tips, tricks, and templates to help you finish what you started.
800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. 800-215-6815. That's 800-215-6815.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Here's Hal and Judy.
And let's head on over to Lori. Hi, Lori. How are you?
Hello. I have a situation where I acquired a cat from my brother-in-law who thought she was diabetic, but when I needed to take her to the vet, the 3 tests that were done on her, she was not diabetic. But I have 2 cats in the house that I've had for 10 years, and my male cat has been really going after her and attacking her. So he had his claws. He wound up giving her 2 puncture wounds in her back. Okay. That's why I needed to take her to the vet. And then I had the male cat's claws taken out, and they're still battling, but I don't know how to have them adjust to each other in a much kinder fashion.
Okay, so they've been together for 10 years?
My male has 10 years. My brother-in-law just gave me his cat in December, at the end of December.
Okay, because that would be very unusual if the cats have been together for 10 years and fighting now.
No,
so this is a new introduction.
That's why I'm calling, because I don't want this going on.
I got to say, Lori, now just declawing a cat does not stop aggression. So don't let anybody tell you that declawing a cat is going to stop them from fighting with another cat. We have to get to the root of the problem here. And,
I knew that. I just didn't want her injured. And he's now an indoor cat, so he didn't really need his claws. I thought I'd have to eliminate that.
So both of these kitties are inside?
Yes, they are now all inside. I used to live on a farm. They used to be all outside on a farm, my male and female. And then when I moved into town, I would take my male back home to the farm for the summers to do mouse hunting for my mom. And then that no longer happens. So he's now in the house.
All right. So, so these kitties have been together since December. How do they always fight? Do they get along in harmony at any times of the day?
They fight primarily when it's nighttime, but I know there are periods during the day when my male cat, whose name is Lolo, will go after Brandy, one that my brother-in-law gave me.
All right. Well, and then, so you said your other kitty checked out for diabetes. Fine. So that's not on the table at all. So we don't have that going on, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, a couple of things that we're going to want to do. When we introduce cats like this, we just kind of throw them together and hope that all goes well. Sometimes it does. But when it doesn't, it's really important to take 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps backwards. And that really means that giving the kitties their individual space. And if there's daily altercations that are going on, then they are definitely not ready to be together. And this can be hard to accomplish in some households. But to really have these kitties separated, when we can put them in together in a controlled environment where preferably we try to pair the presence of the 2 cats together with something really favorable like food. So we try not to leave food out and freely accessible, and we put it down when the other cat's around. So in some households, what you can do is put a closed door. 1 cat's on one side, 1 cat's on the other. Their food gets presented at that door interface, and they can smell each other. They know the other cat's there, but the food becomes a positive association with just the near presence of that other cat. So that's kind of going back to square one. When cats are fighting and not getting along, some cats, you got to really separate them for a day or even a couple days. Some cats even up to 5 days, because they're so vigilant. They're so kind of stoked up that the sight of that other cat within those few days really triggers the escalation of the altercation again. So you have to kind of keep that in mind and kind of know your cat's behavior. If your one cat is always agitated, looking and hunting for the other cat, he needs a break. He thinks that that's what he's got to do to ensure his home is safe. So keeping them separated and then doing a controlled reintroduction is really the way that we can gradually help these guys along. The next thing is that we have to make sure that we have ample resources for cats. And sometimes they will have territorial disputes over litter boxes, nesting sites, bedding sites, food and water. So for 2 cats, we really ought to have 3 litter sites in this house. And we need to have at least 2 different feeding stations in different areas. Height is the way that cats get away from the world. So we want cat trees. We want perches by the windows in multiple locations so the kitties can have their places to go. And then the next step, that before we start getting into the heavy duty things like drugs, is that I like to use cat pheromones, which are the scent hormones that are the kitty calming hormone. And those are available in sprays, diffusers, and it can help. It's not a cure-all by itself, but it can certainly help with some of these environmental changes in making it more workable for these kitties to get along. And then the other important thing that I'll mention, Lori, is that if you do catch your cats where he's starting to get vigilant, he's starting to stalk her, he's starting to kind of go after her, you don't want to yell at him and punish him in any way. That actually can kind of make him more jazzed up and make things worse. So we do look for distractions, and we look for things that he can do as an alternative. So sometimes we'll use like noisemakers. Sometimes it's something as shaking a can of Pounce treats and just having him go towards another direction, but really to try to just avoid and prevent those situations and not to make anyone feel bad about it, because they're doing what they do. Cats, cats are funny. I always say it's kind of like, college-age girls sharing a dorm room. You can put them together, but they're not going to necessarily like each other or get along. You have to kind of give them their personal space in that way.
I have things started, thank goodness, at the litter boxes, and I have water on all 3 levels of my house and food in the 2 different areas. Yeah, and that's all of these things. It's not just one thing. So you really have to do some of these kind of broad changes through the home environment. And I mentioned drugs as the last therapy because, we can be popping pills into him, and it doesn't necessarily change the environment. And for cats, that's really a big thing. Some great things to kind of redirect that predatory drive that he's now putting on the other kitty are to get some of these great interactive toys. Frolic Cat, for one, makes a lot of neat things that'll keep his attention. So where he can chase, a little mouse that's going around, laser tag toys, things like that, where, it really gives him an outlet to be a cat and to be a predatory cat.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-434-5019. 800-434-5019. 800-434-5019. That's 800-434-5019.
Celebrating our connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio. Here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
It's a big show today. Sometime this hour, Joey Villani will try his hand at comedy with a pet-related, grooming-related joke. And it's very hard to find something that's related to both of those, but you've worked many hours to find something that's truly appropriate. Hey, Stace, what are you working on?
I don't know if you've ever swallowed anything whole before that you're not supposed to swallow. I did. Once I swallowed a penny when I was a kid, and I remember my mom turned me upside down and my sisters by my feet. They stuffed a bagel in me, and then they turned me upside down. I don't know why they gave me the bagel and then turned me upside down. But anyway, they tried to get the penny out. That didn't work. It had to come out other ways. But there's a dog that not only did one penny, 100 more, 110 more to be exact. I'll tell you all about this pooch and how he's doing coming up on Animal Radio News.
There you go.
You know, swallowing things whole is my hobby. Now, let me ask you guys this. If I were to swallow whole that guy, what's his name, Kobayashi, the guy who eats a lot, after he eats, like, let's say he breaks the world's record for eating pizza, and then I swallow him whole, do I then break the record?
Yes, you automatically get the record after that. Yes.
Beautiful. I'll make a swallow you whole, Jolie.
Hey, you would do that for me? I'm blushing over here.
Let's see. Oh, that noise in the background, if you hear that. Let me tell you what that... We got a bagel stuck in the air conditioner.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Little pre-show.
Yeah, well, you know what? I can step on my desk and I might be able to tap it.
Dr. Debbie dislodging the bagel from the air conditioner as she steps up on the equipment.
I've got dust in my eyes.
What are you going to do with the bagel? Are you going to eat that? Because if you're not going to eat that, I'll take the bagel now.
If it was a donut, I would consider it, but I don't know about the bagel.
Let's hit the phones. We have Tammy on the phone. Hi, Tammy. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Save us.
I'm trying. You guys are having a good time, though, without me, so I'll do the best I can.
What's going on?
Hey, I have a 1-year-old boxer. Actually, he's one of 3 boxers. And every time I come home and let him out of the crate, he attacks me with so much excitement. I mean, I don't know what to do.
What do you do? What?
Well, I ignore him. I turn my back to him, to which he just jumps all over the backside of me.
That's perfect that you do that.
I tell him no, and I put my hand like flat out in front of his face. That does absolutely nothing. He's just so excited.
Okay. Let's talk. Yeah, and you know what? That's pretty common. And I always tell people when they come home to ignore their dog for the first 15 or 20 minutes, and when they leave, they should ignore their dog for the first 15 or 20 minutes, because we talk about triggers. And when you leave the house, there are certain things you do that let your dog know that you're leaving, and that gets them cranked up on the juice, I like to call it. And young dogs, they get cranked up on the juice big time. And so since dogs don't talk, we have to communicate with our bodies. That's what they learn. So you turning your back on them is perfect, and you've got to keep doing that. It won't work instantly. A lot of people think, oh, that didn't work, I got to try something else. But turning your back on your dog, ignoring your dog when he's doing things that you don't like, is a great way to teach your dog to do things that you do like. That's what you want to do. Usually when a dog jumps on you or he doesn't walk on the leash properly, it's not because, he wants to be bad. It's because you haven't taught him that you don't want him to do that. And the best way, again, to teach him is to ignore him. So what I want you to do is when you come home, don't let him out of the crate. Just go about your business. Don't talk to him. Don't look at him. And it's very hard for humans not to talk. We want to talk. That's how we communicate. Dogs don't talk. They just watch you. So I always tell my kids, I love being with the dog because he doesn't talk. Because my kids talk and talk and they never say anything. They just keep talking. So when you come home, ignore him for 15 minutes. Let him out of the kennel. If he's probably not going to be as excited because he's got 15 minutes to calm down. He's going to start to learn that when you come home, you're not going to let him out of the kennel right away, and only let him out when he's calm. Then you let him out. If he jumps on you, turn your back on him and pay no attention to him. And it might take a week, 2 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, before he starts to figure out, okay, I'm not getting any attention anymore for jumping on her. Then when he sits down and he's calm, that's when you give him attention. Remember, that's a very important rule. Only give your dog attention when he's doing what you want him to do. Never give him attention when he's doing what you don't want him to do, because it confuses him. Look at it from the dog's point of view. If he jumps on you and gets attention, even if it's negative attention, well, he's going to keep jumping on you. So you ignore them when they're doing what you don't like, but you've got to do it for a period of time, a long period of time, and you've got to have patience and stick with it.
All right, I will definitely do that, because he's killing me, and I just have a 12-week-old puppy. He's kind of teaching him the same.
Oh, of course. They feed off of, they feed off. So you being calm, remember, ignore them when you come home, ignore them when you leave the house. That's key. That's a very important thing.
Okay, so before we leave, we put them in their crates and then just kind of like hang out here and then go? Yep.
Yes, put them in their crates 15 minutes to a half hour before you leave, or else that will be a trigger. So what you do is you put them in the crates sometimes when you're not even leaving. You know, what you do is you trick them. You change the pattern. So maybe once every other day you just stick them in the crate for no reason at all. Go into the next room, whatever it is. But when you leave the house, put them in the crate 15 minutes to a half hour before you go. It will give them a lot of time to mellow out. Don't say goodbye. It's going to be very hard. You're going to forget. You're going to go, oh, see you later, boy. Don't say anything. Just leave. Don't say anything.
Okay.
You can do it.
Right. I can do it. I can do it. Thank you so much.
Alan, what if the dog is doing something destructive?
Well, when a dog's doing something destructive, you got to make a major correction right then and there so that he connects the dots. So, like, let's say your dog starts chewing your furniture, right? You immediately give him a correction. You immediately go over there and you if he's got a leash handle on, you flick your wrist, give him a correction, or you just go, no! And you just tap him on the neck with your fingers, and then you stick a toy in his face that he's allowed to chew. It's all about teaching them what you want, setting them up for success, and rewarding them when they're doing exactly what it is you want.
That's how my wife trained me.
Well, when you think about it, dogs and men are a lot alike, because men don't hear what women say. Mm-hmm. They just notice the body language, like, oh, honey, you're mad? Yeah, because the woman turns her back on him and walks away, and then he's like, oh, something's wrong here. Something's wrong.
Amanda, hey, Amanda, how are you doing?
Well, hello.
Where are you calling from today, cheery little gal?
I'm calling for lovely Port Hueneme, California, little military town.
Oh, I know.
Give a shout out.
Animal Radio started in Oxnard, California, so we're very familiar with it.
Oxnard.
Oxnard.
What's an Oxnard?
The nard of the ox.
Yes.
Hey, what's going on with you, Amanda?
Well, my neighbor has like a multitude of cats, and she is allowing her cats free range in our area, so there's no control of them. They take the liberty of spraying my door, and they have made it their thing to do. And I spoke with her, and she denies that they do it, even though she knows that they're doing it.
Okay. And do you have pets yourself?
I have none.
Oh, so you've already tried talking to her, and that's not getting you anywhere, huh?
No.
Okay. Well, there are some things that you can use as deterrents to try to keep the kitties away from your area and your property. Normally, my first recommendation is to go knocking on the door and to talk to the folks about that, because in many communities, even though cats are often let outside, there are leash laws.
Right.
And to allow them to run at large is actually a violation of the leash law. So that's something I always like to try to kind of encourage them to take control of the kitty world there. The next things that you might be faced with doing are looking for those good deterrents that can help to encourage those cats to find out something else that's not so appealing as your house. And the first thing that I like to direct folks to are some of the wonderful motion-activated deterrent systems that are out there. And
I have two of them in place, and I don't know what's going on. They jump up on the screen and sway.
Okay.
They do that.
And do you have the kind that shoots out water or makes a sound?
Mine, I understand, emits a high-pitched sound that humans don't hear, and I sort of believe that's a lie.
Well, it just might not be maybe as offensive as we need. And the one thing I recommend, if you can make it happen, is that they have motion-activated ones that actually hook up to your sprinkler. Basically sends out a big And when the kitty sets off that, or I guess even the mailman, so you got to kind of watch how you set these things up. But when the critter walks through the electronic eye, the water gets turned on, and it, for cats, that's a kind deterrent, if you will. So that might be one option. There are also other ones that are motion activated sounds. One that is like a compressed canister that goes psst, and kind of more along the lines of a cat hiss. And that might be something else that's a little bit more up a kitty's alley than worrying about some of these high-pitched noises. And then, I like to try some natural things and throw in, along with all these other steps that I'm mentioning, use some citrus. Cats don't typically like citrus, so you can take things like lemon peels or orange peels and kind of put them in the area around where you want to avoid them from going through. So that's nice if it's a garden area or just somewhere off to the side, and change that as they kind of dry out and lose their freshness. But that can be helpful as well to just encourage them to not come to that area. Now, you said this was a door, or
it's
porch?
A screen door.
Screen door. Okay. In most situations, if we have cats peeing in the house in inappropriate places, we would ask you to use an enzyme-based cleaner. Now, if you don't have a cat, you probably don't have this on the shelf. But if there's a way that you can kind of clean and disinfect the area, you'd want to go to a pet store and pick up an enzyme-based cleaner that helps to break down the odor of the cat urine. And that can be, a good way to try to take away some of the interest for them returning to the scene of the crime. And the other thing, I have had some friends that are kind of in some of the rural areas that have told me that using some of the different predator urines, like coyote urine, and kind of taking a little essence of coyote urine and sprinkling that in the environment, that, different type of smell, different kind of urine, but as a scent, it can be a deterrent, because, cats don't typically want to go hanging out where some of these predators are, and that might be a way to kind of psychologically try to keep them away as well.
But what's worse?
Yeah, the coyote urine.
The coyote urine,
we could
the cat urine.
We could send
One fits for another.
Yeah, we could send Joey Villani over there to take care of your neighbor. No. Jeez, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Do you have an old car sitting around your house? Maybe you're even paying insurance on it. Well, if you don't need that car anymore, donate it, running or not, to the United Breast Cancer Foundation. They will even come and pick it up for free and give you a receipt for a tax donation. Breast cancer screening could save the life of someone you love. And right now, they need your help. They want to save more lives through early detection by offering women free or low-cost breast screening exams. And that's what your old car helps to pay for. So get your phone out and call right now to donate your car to the United Breast Cancer Foundation. Remember, they will come pick it up for free and give you a tax donation receipt. Call right now.
800-793-4880. 800-793-4880. 800-793-4880. That's 800-793-4880.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
We're very happy to announce that we've removed the bagel. Oh, I don't want to say we've.
Oh, Dr. come on, I did it.
Dr. Debbie removed the bagel from the air conditioner. Actually got up on top of the equipment and reached up there and removed
still coughing.
Let's head to Stefan. Is it Stefan? Stefan. Hey,
yes, it is.
How are you doing today?
Stefan. Great.
What's going on?
Oh, I just had a question. We've got a rescue dog, my wife and I. It's a lab and pit bull mix is what the vet has told us. But it's got one of its toenails that's split all the way up. And I was wondering if you had a solution for that.
That's weird.
It doesn't seem like it wants to heal.
Yeah. Is it bleeding? Is he licking at it?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Sorry.
And it heals up for a little bit, and then she seems like she pulls it apart again. Is there some kind of a splint or something like that I could put on it or wrap something around it?
Okay. Well, the challenge with split nails, and now I should ask, are any of her other nails abnormal or having any problems?
No, just that one.
Okay, because there's a couple things that we really would talk about when we have a damaged toenail. And if it's going what I call a longitudinal break, so the split goes up the length of the nail, and especially if it gets up as high as where the nail bed is, so where the skin and the nail meet, those are the worst type of nail breakages to deal with, because one of the main ways that we deal with a broken toenail is we cut the nail back to where the nail is healthy and stop the bleeding, and it kind of shuts off that whole pulp of the nail, if you will, and allows it to heal. If we can't do that and the nail is broken above the level of the nail bed, then in many cases this just kind of keeps festering. So there's a couple strategies. One is to try to have that trim back and have the pet on medical therapy, antibiotics, and bandaging, and to see how that grows out. Now, ironically, last week I had, I think, 3 dogs with broken toenails of this nature, and a couple of them we actually had to amputate the toe. One dog had a degree of osteomyelitis or bone infection that had occurred from the nail being damaged above the nail bed area. That can be determined by having an x-ray of the area and evaluating that. If that's present, really the best thing is to take that end of the digit off, because otherwise you put the whole foot and the whole toe in jeopardy there. So that may be one solution to stop things. For other pets, if that's not the case, then we can try trimming it back as it starts to grow out to try to get that kind of clean edge, if you will. And this is where kind of, looking at it, if you haven't had your baby to a vet, I would definitely say that would be the first step to see how that falls into the whole degrees of this. Some of these guys can do fine with medical care, but, you definitely need to make sure she's on an antibiotic and some pain medicine, because these things hurt like the bejeezers, and they'll definitely, you can't really make them not chew on it because it really hurts. And, so that's where sometimes the swiftest solution is to just cut the little tip of that nail off in a surgery and be done over with it, and she'll heal up in 10 days.
Okay. We'll take her to our vet then.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for the call.
I appreciate
Love your program. Listen to it every weekend.
Oh, we appreciate that you're listening. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This is the first time that I've heard of this kind of thing happening. Is this a diet-related thing?
Well, that's a great question, Hal. In many cases, it's just kind of a function of a very vigorous, active dog and just a bad accident. They snag it in something in the yard. Sometimes it's from long toenails, so we always want to make sure the nails are kept short. There are some dogs that this kind of break or them not healing from the break may alert us to something like cancer in the toe. So that is a possibility. And then there's even some unusual immune problems in the nail that can occur. So that's why I was asking him if he had other toenails that were affected, because sometimes brittle, broken nails that happen all over the toes can be a symptom of a problem that we really need to diagnose and address in a whole body type nature.
Okay. What he told me before we went on air is that it was an accident. I guess his dog was climbing or digging or something and injured it.
Okay. Well, that's the best case scenario, and is hopefully there's not bone infection set in, and that can be dealt with most easily.
We are just around the corner from News with Stacey Cohn. What do you got?
Americans are overweight, and it's one of the top problems in the United States, but it's becoming one of the top problems with dogs and cats. And you know what? They're getting the same diseases as adults. I'll tell you more about it coming up on Animal Radio News.
Well, does anybody want to hear my pet-based joke I have?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, this lady wants a Mexican hairless for her birthday. So she's waiting. Her birthday comes up. Her boyfriend comes in, and her boyfriend has the schnauzer. And she's upset, but you know what? It's a dog. She's happy, but she's upset. But she's looking at the dog, and she says, you know what? Honestly, if I take all the hair off of this dog, it'll probably look like a Mexican hairless. So what she does is she figures that if she gets on a Harley and drives down to the local drugstore, she can go get some hair remover. So she gets on her bike, starts it up, goes to the drugstore. Comes in, she's looking around, she doesn't see any hair remover, so she figured, let me ask the pharmacist here. So she goes to the pharmacist, hey, do you have any hair remover? He goes, hold on one second. Let me go get it. So he goes in the back. He comes out with this can, puts it down, and he goes, okay, let me just tell you something about this. It's pretty strong. So if you're going to use it on your legs, you got to be careful. She goes, nope, it's not for my legs. Okay, well, if you're going to put it under your arms, the same thing. It's not for under my arms. It's for my schnauzer. He goes, lady, you put that stuff on your schnauzer, you won't ride that Harley for a month.
There you go.
Come on, it was better than that. So we got a laugh machine, anything in the studio?
He didn't like the response. The response was not appropriate.
No, the response was bad.
Tough room.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Hi, this is Elaine Boozler on Animal Radio. Spay and neuter your pets and some of your exes.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-434-5019. 800-434-5019. 800-434-5019. That's 800-434-5019.
This is an Animal Radio News Update.
I'm Stacy Cohen for Animal Radio. A New York woman says she was beyond upset when she found out that her dog made an unplanned trip to Ireland on its own. It happened as Edith Lombardo-Albach and her family were moving to Phoenix. She told ABC News that she put Hendrix, that's her 6-year-old English Springer Spaniel, on a United Airlines flight to meet up with her husband and her daughter. They already made the move to the desert. But just 7 minutes before Hendrix's flight was scheduled to land, Lombardo-Albach got a call saying the dog had accidentally been sent to Ireland instead. Edith says she almost fainted at first, although the airline promised that somebody in Ireland would feed and walk Hendrix before the dog made the 7-hour trip back to the New Jersey airport. Edith says she spent some time with Hendrix before he had to hop on another plane to reach his final destination in Arizona. United, of course, apologized for what they called a rare incident, and they refunded her money back. That dog should have got at least free peanuts on the way back. Obesity, not just a problem for Americans, it's a problem for pets, too. According to the latest National Pet Obesity Awareness Day survey, it was done by the Association for Pet Obesity Prevention. Over half of both dogs and cats in the U.S. are overweight. 52% of dogs tip the scales at what their vet would consider to be overweight or obese, along with 58% of cats. These figures account for about 80 million dogs and cats who are living under the care of Americans who are also at increased risk for disorders like diabetes and hypertension and many cancers, too. In cats, the study found a significant escalation in the number of type 2 diabetes cases, and dogs, certain breeds like Labrador retrievers, golden retrievers, were found to be at greater risk for obesity than others. It's just their body type. I have a lab who's a little chubby, too. I mean, he eats the same as my Jack Russell and my other mixed breed dog, but he's still kind of chunky. You try to keep him slim. Best thing is get those dogs out to run around. There's a dog in Manhattan who's doing just fine after vets successfully removed more than 100 pennies from his tummy. The owner of the 13-year-old Jack Russell Terrier told the New York Daily News his dog is more like the Tasmanian devil since the energetic dog eats just about anything he can get. That includes 111 pennies that were knocked to the floor when he went after a bag of bagel crumbs that were left on a desk. Vets pulled the pennies out at 5 at a time during a 2-hour operation. And guess what? Yes, they got to keep the change. I'm Stacy Cohen. Get more animal breaking news at animalradio.com.
This has been an Animal Radio News Update. Get more at animalradio.com.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Here's Hal and Judy.
Is this true? We're having the Cat Whisperer on today?
Yes, we are.
What is it? Mieshelle Nagelschneider?
I think you've got that right.
Okay, she'll be talking to your cats in just a few minutes right here at Animal Radio.
I love her name.
I think I have a little Nagelschneider on my neck. Can you look at
Let's
that,
go
Dr.
on
Debbie?
to the... We're going to go over to the Nagelschneiders for some bingo.
We've replaced the Doppler weather with a Nagelschneider weather system. I'll take a taco and a Nagelschneider.
If I had a gun in the studio.
If I had a Nagelschneider for every time I said something stupid.
Stop it.
Joy, you're just sitting there going, oh, my God.
Help me, Joy.
Don't have my gun with me, Judy.
Nothing like having your Nagelschneider firmly planted on a Harley.
That's right. Just watch the hair remover.
That would be a great sitcom show, the Nagelschneiders.
Okay.
Can we get back to this radio thing?
Yes, sure. Our dream team here, just in case you are new to Animal Radio, to my left, Dr. Debbie answering your vet medical questions. To my right now is dog father Joey Villani. They swap places with dog trainer Alan Cable. They're playing musical chairs in the studio, it seems like. And we welcome to the show. I did not know that there was such a thing as the Cat Whisperer. There certainly is Mieshelle Nagelschneider. Hi, Mieshelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Now, tell us about your cats, first of all. Are they well behaved? Because the carpenter's cabinets are always the worst cabinets. It's the same thing I wonder about, behaviorists. Are your cats well behaved?
I am very lucky in that sense. They're all 7 of them sitting here watching me, probably thinking how to foil my plans or what I'm going to say.
7 of them.
I'm very lucky, but I know what you mean. It's that, what do they say, the shoemaker's children have no shoes. I'm
That's
lucky
it.
in that sense that they are. They're really well behaved. We just adopted our 7th cat.
Wow.
And
With 7 cats, there's no, peeing going on, weird, inappropriate urination or anything? Really?
no, I have enough litter boxes everywhere. So that's the key. A lot of people put them all in the same area. And as they get older, that's one of the ways they structure their social hierarchy, is time sharing the litter box areas and the food areas, the water areas, all of that.
Well, so now you have 8 litter boxes?
Yeah, at least 8.
At least 8.
At least 8 boxes.
Lost count.
Spread out in many different areas. I have one right now. I'm in my office. I have one in my closet, because I know what happens. I'm not immune to anything, so I definitely want them spread out everywhere.
Well, that's probably one of the biggest problems you hear about, I assume, is inappropriate.
That's about 70% of what I do is the litter box.
Well, I've seen where people have, 3 cats, and they'll say, well, I have 4 litter boxes. They're all in one room. And they have a 2-story house. It's like, well, no wonder you have issues.
Yeah, and things are fine until the cats are about 2 years old. That's one of the emails we get most often, is everything was fine until they're about 2. But then that's when they move into social maturity, and they want to structure their social hierarchy, and they want to work out this time-sharing arrangement with the other cats in the household. And so if they can't do it very easily, they'll just carve out their own area, like under the dining room table or on your couch, something like that. And then other problems follow suit. Then you get preferences for soft things to urinate on, and so the problem just grows, So you got to take care of it sooner rather than later.
Well, you put together a book, The Cat Whisperer, Why Cats Do What They Do and How to Get Them to Do What You Want. And hold for the laughter. I'm just for because.
Yeah. Well, no, because that title. It's a long story how that came out. Random House is the publisher.
Sure.
But I always thought in parentheses it should say, well, it's really what your cats. It's what your cats want, but I'm not going to tell the owner that. It is really.
There we
We're just
go.
trying to direct their behavior where we want it.
Well, is it really possible to train a cat? I mean, I don't think so, but you
for sure.
prove me wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Well, anything with the brain, they learn by experience. You can train a goldfish,
Sure.
and just simply the way to describe that, I always mention this to my clients. If you walk to the goldfish tank and you pick up the food, they know. They're like, oh, that leads to food, and so they'll swim to the top of the water, to be fed. And if anything, hopefully we can train cats because they can train us very well. They've got that down. In fact, meow, 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 give me food, let me outside. So, but the one element that's missing with cats is they don't have any need to obey us like the dogs do because they have that pack mentality. So that's out of the equation, which in some ways can make it more simple. They're really, food motivated, attention motivated. My cats are clicker trained. Many of them can do high five. I just, do the click and, oh, great, now here they all come thinking they're going to get something. But, yeah, and it's stimulating, to train them. They do, some cats, their minds are really meant to do something. We keep them inside the house, keeping them in captivity, if you think about it, kind of unnatural. They really need to have their little minds working. So training them, doing some, positive-based reward system like clicker training is a good thing. Okay,
I have 4 cats, and one cat is always trying to run out the door. They're all indoor, and the minute that door's open, he runs out between your legs. He's very smart. He needs challenges and stuff. How the heck do I get him to stop running out the door?
Is he running out the door when you come home or when you want to go?
As soon as that door is open, doesn't matter coming or going.
Doesn't he just want to get outside?
He just wants out. He sees an open door and he goes for it.
So what we've done with our clients, that door darting, there's a few things, but one, so for example, when you come home, you could begin training him to go to a place where he would receive some treats or his cat food, something that he would eat right away. Mm-hmm. And so he would immediately learn that, when she comes home and opens the door, I run to the opposite end of the house to my cat tree, and that's where I get fed. So that, it takes time. I mean, everything takes about a few weeks, but he would as long as he's food motivated.
Oh, I do. I have a treat that he would love to do that with.
Good
idea. I never
Wow.
thought of that.
Miss, what's your last name again? I love your last name.
Nagelschneider.
Do a lot of people? You know what? You need to be a permanent part of this show. She's great. She should be the cat expert on this show.
Yes. Well, if anyone can pronounce my name, I always say it's easier than Jingleheimer Schmidt. So Nagelschneider.
The book is called The Cat Whisperer: Why Cats Do What They Do and How to Get Them to Do What You Want. The author, Mieshelle Nagelschneider, joining us. I have 10 copies to give away right now.
No, you don't. You have 9.
9 copies?
Yes.
Sorry, Hal. There's always one lost to the cause.
Yeah, it got lost.
If you're not lucky enough to get through, head on over to the, how about Amazon or your bookstore? Ask them to order it, either one. If you have a bookstore, those things are going extinct like nobody's business.
Could I use this book on women? This sounds a lot like what women, like the techniques.
You read my mind.
Yeah.
You read my mind.
Oh, was that a question for me, if you can use it on women? Yeah, I always tell everyone that, it's the men that love cats. They usually do better with women. They don't need that immediate gratification like they do dogs,
Oh.
Women are so much more like cats,
There you go.
We're not going to give in, we're our own, species.
Are you with man, and how many litter boxes does he need?
Oh, gosh. He actually goes outside. No, I'm just kidding.
Does he have a cat? Would you be more attracted to a guy with a cat or a dog?
Definitely a cat. Everyone that I've in the past, they've all been dog. Well, actually, no. I guess about a few of them have been cat people. I think the cat men are more gentle and more letting you be who you want to be, versus
thinking back, I agree. I totally
agree with that.
I got an easy way, Judy, for you with the cat. So what you do is you leave a box right outside the door of the cat so that the opening of the box faces the door. So when you open up the door, the cat runs right in the box. You bring the box in the house. It's a lot easier.
I would love to go on vacation, but I don't want to leave our Charlie behind.
I agree. I heard that the magazine Fido Friendly lists places where you can stay with your pet. They also offer reviews so you have an idea about pet policy to include any restrictions, fees, and what pet amenities to expect.
That's, dare I say, awesome. What are we waiting for?
I'm way ahead of you. I just logged on to FidoFriendly.com and found a 4-star resort. Hilton Santa Fe Resort and Spa at Buffalo Thunder in New Mexico.
Charlie agrees. When do we leave?
As soon as you can pack your bags. It's off to adventure with Charlie, thanks to Fido Friendly Magazine. To find your next family adventure that includes your furry family friend, log on to FidoFriendly.com.
You're listening to Animal Radio, and here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
We welcome back to the show Dr. Gerald Post. He's the owner of the Veterinary Cancer Center, and they are dedicated to the diagnosis and treatment of cancer in animals, which is no longer necessarily a death sentence. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you so much.
We had a chance to talk a little over a month ago about cancer in animals, and we ran out of time. But I wanted to talk to you about what animals are predisposed to cancers and what types.
The best breeds are probably going to be, no surprise, mixed breed dogs as far as their risk for cancer. But I would say people need to not only look at risk of cancer, but also personality size, things like that, when they evaluate what breed to get. But as far as cancer goes, there are a number of breeds that are predisposed to either one or multiple types of cancers. And if you look at comparing a population of, mixed breed dogs to a population of, let's say, purebred dogs like golden retrievers or Rottweilers or flat-coated retrievers, the portion of dogs that are mixed breed will have lower incidence of cancer in general, and that's something called hybrid vigor. In other words, mixing of two breeds' genes tends to bring out the best in both.
Mutts are generally stronger all around, aren't they?
They usually are. From a genetic standpoint, absolutely.
So beyond with my clients, when they come in with that brand new puppy, you hate to freak them out and tell them all the bad stuff that's going to happen. But, I think part of, my job is to educate folks on what potential diseases. So beyond that, what else do you advocate for folks with new pets?
Absolutely. So I think that not only is knowledge power, but by knowing what to look for, sometimes you can catch these diseases, whether they're cancer or otherwise, at an early enough stage where you can potentially cure them, whereas if you didn't know what to look for and they reared their ugly heads, they could be lethal. So, for instance, the breeds that we see a lot of cancer in, for instance, golden retrievers, I still think they're an amazing breed to have. They're wonderful, sweet, family-friendly, kid-friendly, and they're just an all-around wonderful dog. But if you do want a golden retriever, or if you're advising your clients about it, I would advise them, you should probably be on the lookout for lymphoma or hemangiosarcoma, which is a tumor of the spleen in general, or typically. And so when the animal becomes, middle-aged, 5, 6, or 7, maybe having, routine ultrasounds, x-rays, blood work, and physical exams done every 6 months to a year may be warranted. If you have a, owner who just, adopted or bought a large or giant breed dog, being on the lookout for any type of, acute lameness and understanding that bone cancer in those animals are much more common than in smaller dogs, may make you a bit more likely to bring the pet in for x-rays of a lameness rather than just treating it with a non-steroidal or rest, things like that.
We're always talking about dog breeds that are predisposed to cancer. Are there any cat breeds that are predisposed to certain cancers?
So it's a really great question, and certainly, in the United States, the vast majority of cats that, we see in our practice are domestic short hairs, and so the breed-specific literature on cancer risk is much less robust in cats than it is in dogs. I would say that there are certain breeds that have a risk for other diseases. For instance, the certain British breeds have a tendency to have one type of blood type. There are Siamese cats who tend to have one type of mast cell tumor that tends to be called a histiocytic mast cell tumor. And mast cell tumors in Siamese cats will often regress on their own. And so, there are breed dispositions in cats as well as dogs. But one of the interesting things about breeds and knowing the breed specificity is, for instance, bladder cancer, which is incredibly common in Scottish Terriers. There is a urine test called the bladder tumor antigen test. And using that test in young Scottish Terriers, typically every 6 months, or West Highland White Terriers when they're young every 6 months, if you get a negative result on that, that tells you that your dog, with a very, very, very high level of confidence, does not have bladder cancer. So you can go on for the next 6 months and kind of go and take a breath.
And a lot of these things that you're talking about aren't necessarily running like hundreds of dollars of tests every time you go to the veterinarian. It's more keeping up with those regular physical exams, right?
Absolutely correct. And, also, again, when you're advising your clients when they're, getting a dog, adopting a dog, or buying a dog, by knowing what specifically to look for, you can pay a little bit closer attention, when you do a physical exam on a giant breed dog to look at the joints and specific locations. When you're doing your exam on a Scottish Terrier or a Westie, to pay a little bit more attention to the bladder. So, no, these tests are not overly expensive, and a physical examination, is really going to be your best friend when it comes to preventative medicine.
There is so much to learn about this. You can check out the website, by the way, at vcchope.com. VCCHope.com, as in Veterinary Cancer Center. Dr. Gerald Post joining us. There's a list of dogs and breeds that are predisposed to cancer. We're going to put that list up over at the website at animalradio.com. Dr. Post, thank you so much for joining us again.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, and thank you.
That's all we have for you today. We thank you so much for listening. Do not forget, you can ask your questions all week long from the Animal Radio app for your smartphone, your iPhone, or your Android. Download the Animal Radio app right now. You can also listen to past shows. And we'll see you next week for more Animal Radio right here on this fine station.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Always adopt, don't declaw.
This is Animal Radio Network.